Take care of a few housekeeping duties first. Just in case you need a washroom, there is a single-use washroom here. There's also one up on the mezzanine and a bank of washrooms up in the main part of the Institute. If you use these, make sure that you shut the door and push the big red button next to the door to lock it, otherwise you might get surprised. In the unlikely event of an emergency, we'll make our way out to the door there and out onto George Street. We are tweeting this tonight, and the Twitter hashtags are there on the white wall, and also I believe on one of the slides. Obviously, we encourage you to enjoy the wine and cheese. Please drink responsibly. Also, we are live streaming this event, so it will be available on YouTube. And obviously, because of that, we are not observing the Chatham House rule that we usually observe here at the Institute. So just so everyone is aware that you're on camera. I have some thanks I want to pass along. Where's Ruth? Ruth Hubbard? Ruth is here with us. Ruth is here representing Inveneer, the publisher of the book. And David Stevenson will be at the table with the books. Have I mentioned that there are books for sale? So after the formal program, please help yourself to purchasing a book. And Paul and I have agreed to sign a book if you'd like. I also want to extend my thanks to Monica and the Institute for Science, Society, and Policy, and particularly to Raphael. Where's Raphael? There he is. Raphael has been very instrumental in helping us get here tonight. I want to obviously acknowledge the panelists. I'm going to let Monica do the formal introductions. And finally, in terms of the IOG crew, I want to acknowledge Mark. Where's Mark? Mark's up at the door. I think it was Mark who first came to me with the idea of doing a book launch event, so thank you, Mark. Steve, Jacqueline, and then especially Becky, and very especially Rhonda, who have basically made sure that we're all here tonight. So thank you all. I also want to acknowledge some of the authors who are here with us tonight. Arthur Cordell. Where's Arthur? Arthur, raise your hand. Thank you. Michael Jenkins. Michael's here, and Guy Steed is here in the front row. Are there any other authors that I've missed? Okay, I didn't see any. And then, are there any other folks who have been affiliated with the Science Council of Canada?
Tim.
Oh, Tim. Nice to see you. Thank you. And finally, I want to acknowledge as well that one of the authors, Roger Voyer, who died a year and a half ago or so, and obviously we miss him. We have dedicated the book in his memory. Okay, I want to talk just very briefly, because I know we're all eager to hear what the panelists have to say, but I just want to give a brief overview of how we got to where we are with this book. So a bit of the history. So 1998, I moved to Canada for the first time and learned about the Science Council at that time. What struck me at that point, this was maybe 6 years after the council had closed, but I was struck by the people who had been affiliated with it and how they spoke about this organization with such great affection, and it marked in my mind the need to learn more about the Science Council. A couple years later, I was pursuing my PhD and I needed a dissertation topic, and for a while I thought maybe I could do a history of the Science Council. In the end, I went a different way and looked at government science and government labs, but I still kept in the back of my mind the need for a history of the Science Council. A few years later, I got a call from Janet Halliwell, who served as the final president of the Science Council, and she said, "Jeff, I'm moving out to Salt Spring Island. I've got a bunch of archives in my basement. I know you're interested in doing a history of the Science Council. Do you want to get them?" I said, "Janet, you had me at archives. I raced over there. I was very enthusiastically bringing home 15 banker's boxes full of documents." Yeah, my wife was less enthused. But anyway, so they sat in my basement then for a number of years. Fast forward to 2012, when Paul organized a lunch of the alumni group of the Science Council staffers. And at that point, we launched the book project. It's taken many years to get to the final publication, so we're very proud and very happy to be here. But what motivated us, I think, is that not only did we realize that a history had never been written of the Science Council, but we realized that it, had a continuing relevance to today, because many of the issues that the Science Council dealt with, we're still dealing with even today. So the project's been a true labor of love. As you saw, we've chosen a nautical metaphor for the title and for the organization of the book, because we really see the Science Council as a bit of a lantern on the bow, the notion of an organization that was shining a light towards the future, helping the ship of state navigate in uncharted waters and potentially, hopefully, to avoid rocky shoals. And that's as poetic as I get. And it had a good run. It was created in 1966, was closed in 1992. So as institutions in the science advisory landscape of Canada go, that had a really quite long run. I want to also just kind of trace very quickly how the evolution of our science advisory landscape can be seen easily in the names of the science advisory councils that we've had. So in the 1960s, science policy emerged as a new area of endeavor for governments, and we had a science council. Through the 70s and 80s, there was increasing concerns about technology and technology policy. And then during the Mulroney years, he created the National Advisory Board for Science and Technology. Later in the Chrétien and Martin years, we had the Advisory Council for Science and Technology, the Council of Science and Technology Advisors. It was kind of an acronym soup throughout that period. And then more recently, under the Harper years, we had STIC, the Science, Technology, and Innovation Council, reflecting the more recent interest in innovation. And of course, most recently, the government has announced the creation of what's called the Council for Science and Innovation. Perhaps technology is no longer important. We shall see. And also throughout this period, there were a number of other institutions that continue to be very important, including the Council of Canadian Academies, and we'll hear from Eric and Janet. Other organizations like Evidence for Democracy, the Science Media Centre of Canada, etc., etc. So you can look back over that 50-year period and realize that the Science Council of Canada was at the forefront of a long evolution now of organizations dedicated to science advice and science policy. So I hope you enjoy the book, and now I am very eager to hear what the panelists have to say. So I'm going to turn it over to Monica. Thank you.